Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's live stream where we are having a conversation on how contemporary media is depressing as fuck. I mean, it's in the title, so we may as well just...
Yeah.
This one is not meant for the kids. Basically, the purview or the topics that we'll be discussing are the news is depressing, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, film and TV shows. That seems like a lot of topics to be discussing, but we'll see how we get on, and we'll maybe do another one on this topic. Yes, so first things first, what are your opening thoughts on this topic, Lyndsey?
Well, while I was preparing myself, I just thought, I'm going to go onto YouTube and just see what other people are searching about social media, just getting into that one in the offset. And it was quite interesting that just typing in social media none of the searches that came up on guess were positive. It was all negative. But I've just jotted down what the top 5 were, and the very first guess that comes up is social media is ruining our lives. Which I think for the top guess,
Yes.
that is a massive statement. The next one is just simply social media is bad. Then we have social media is destroying us. Social media is a waste of time, and social media is destroying society. Now, I could go on. They then got into social media is depressing, social media is destroying the world, and there was loads, but those top 5, the one that really hits home the most is that first one. Social media is ruining our lives. I mean, that is a massive statement.
Yes, so you and I are both of the generation before social media. So you and I remember I hate saying the good old days, but the old days before social media, the times before social media, it used to be cool. There was a time let's do this chronologically, in 2005, in the early days of Facebook, it used to be cool.
Yeah.
It used to be a nice way to keep in touch with your friends, to throw sheep at them, or to play Farmville.
Yeah.
And it has become a monolith over the last, I don't know when, and it's impossible to give an exact date as to, when social media started ruining our lives, but it's definitely happened, or there's definitely a conversation to be had.
Yeah.
About. So this is something that we've discussed before on the live stream, phone fasts and disconnecting yourself from social media for at least a period of time every day. Although there's more than that to be discussed. There's kind of the horror stories of social media, like people losing their jobs because of social media, people losing their families because of social media,
Yeah. Just talking about the job thing, even without just the losing your job, there's a conversation I've had with my niece she'll be 16 this year, and of course she's grown up. Social media has always been a part of her life, and I've had the conversation with her, be careful what you share, be careful what you post on social media, because one day what's going to happen is you'll apply for a job, and the person you're applying for that job with is going to search your name. They're going to go into Google, and if you Google your name, if I Google my name, all my YouTube videos, my salon's business Facebook page and all of that comes up. There's pictures of me that will show up from years ago that I didn't even remember were taken. So you have to think about the fact that everything that you're putting out there on social media will be seen by people who look for you. So, as you're saying there, that has happened so many times. People are posting things, people are saying things. It happens to Joe Public, it happens to celebrities all the time. Let's face it, we see people constantly posting things that are really controversial, and then all of a sudden that person has lost their job because their employers don't want to see that kind of thing. And it does ruin lives in that we get sucked into that, and sometimes you do post something that maybe you shouldn't, and all of a sudden you're out of a job.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a lot to unpack here, so let's see if we can find some sort of structure to unpack it. Um, give me 1 second, sorry. I'm
No,
getting
you're grand.
distracted. Um, okay, so social media, right? So there's obviously work, yeah, is a thing.
I mean, we don't need to delve into that one too much. I mean, it's just simple. Be sensible, when it comes to work and stuff. And obviously, don't badmouth your employer on social media. I've had that conversation with numerous people. One person who will most likely watch this stream will know exactly what I'm talking about. There's Lynn actually just commenting. Someone I used to work with got sacked over a post they put up about a bank holiday. Oh, I vaguely remember that. Yeah, this is what happens. So you do have to be careful what you post because people will see it. But, I mean, even moving on from that, let's start with the fact that social media is fake. The person that you are on social media isn't necessarily you. And, I mean, I do my best. It's really really coincidental that the t-shirt I'm wearing right now says "This is me," because what I'm going to say is on my Instagram I try to be me. I try to, this is me, this is what you see, this is what you get, and I've had people say to me, I love when I watch your videos, I love whenever I see your posts, because knowing you in person, I know that the person that you are is exactly what I'm reading, and what I'm reading is exactly the way you would say it if I was standing in front of you. But the reality is there is an element of we're not ourselves, and we do sort of put on a persona. We do try and be the perfect version of ourselves for social media, and I think that is where it starts to affect your mental health, because you start to feel inferior. And as you say, there is so much to unpack even with that itself. I mean, I was looking at a video recently, and the girl was talking about how she could sit for 2 hours on social media going through people's posts and going, well, I posted the exact same sort of thing about the exact same topic. Why is my post not getting as many views? Why is my post not getting as many likes? Or why are so many people watching this but they're not liking? And what's wrong with me? Why am I not as good as this person? And I think that is when it becomes detrimental to your mental health, because you do start thinking, I'm not as good as that person. Why am I not as good as that person? Why don't people like me as much as them? Or why are they getting this? Or why are they getting to do that? And it really does get to you. I mean, I'll give an insight into, I only really went back on social media properly last January, so 2019. And I started going to events and I started getting involved in more things. And I have to be honest, I really ended up not enjoying social media anymore. And I came away from it for I think it was around a month. I didn't actually post anything because it was starting to really affect me, because I was going to events and I was coming away and there'd be photographers there. But when those pictures that were taken, and I know there's pictures taken of me because I stood and posed for many of them, but they were never posted on the brand's social media. They were never in the magazines that talked about the events and stuff, because I wasn't one of the perfect people. So it started to really get to me. And generally, I have no problem with how I look. I have no problem with who I am as a person. But when you constantly feel inferior to other people, that you're getting passed over, it starts to become not enjoyable. And it starts to feed into depression, to anxiety, to that low self-esteem. And that is one of the biggest things that I hate about social media. And it's why, if you look at my Instagram stream, for example, last year, or maybe the year before, let's go back, it was more makeup, it was more beauty, it was more fluff. Whereas I make a point of, I'm only really posting things now that actually have a meaning, that actually feel right to post now, because I get sucked into the materialistic side, to the fake side of it all, and it's the side that I hate. So it's nice to actually step away and actually see it from another side, and I think that's what we're looking at tonight is, as a viewer, as well as somebody, you yourself are sort of on the inside of that social media thing, but it's interesting how you can view it so differently whenever you step away from it and actually see how bad it actually can be. And it's something that it would be good to kind of create a culture that's better, that's not as destroying, that's not as depressing. And I think that's something that I want to work on. And obviously what I messaged you earlier about and what I've messaged other people, I want to start putting out more positive posts. And I think that video that we've discussed, I think that can be the start of something. You know, doing things like that is good.
Yeah. Well, there's a few things to unpack there. First of all, the fake person thing. I have made I've only just started doing Instagram over the last couple of weeks, and I've tried to keep it sort of positive, and use it for sort of a thankfulness, whatever. Part of the reason why I understand the dangers of social media as well. I think with having high moods and having low moods, there have been people who have put embarrassing things or things that shared too much as well on social media, and essentially made a fool out of themselves on social media. So that's part of the dangers of social media nowadays, especially for children, who kind of very often don't know that, I don't want to say predatory people necessarily, but like I'm heading towards sort of online bullying more than kind of sexual predators. So that is a new danger of social media, which contemporary parents nowadays, nobody's ever dealt with that era. The other thing about being a fake person is that very often you can hide your sadness from the world so in the respect that you post positive things about your relationship or your family or your whatever, and you kind of feel like you have to because everybody else is kind of doing that, and that is an isolating place to be in, it's a place that we were never in before and never felt any compulsion to do, was to broadcast ourselves. It used to be that we could all be Stepford wives, whatever, and then go, but with our friends we could share that we're not quite the Stepford wives or whatever, or, I don't know if that analogy works, but, that our relationships are looking really well, but for some reason now people want to broadcast that to the world, that when, the world doesn't need to know, for the most part, 3 or 4 people need to know your inner struggles, but people still feel the addiction to broadcast their happiness to the world, and that's an addiction in its own right.
I would totally agree, and I think Facebook, even more than Instagram's bad enough in its own way, but Facebook I find is just so depressing. I never go on to Facebook. In fact, I probably wouldn't even have a Facebook account anymore if it wasn't for the fact that I have a business and so have a business page, and clients love the fact that they can message on that. And I have to be honest, I never really, except for messaging yourself and Lynn, I don't really talk to anybody else on Facebook. I don't really do anything. In fact, when I'm posting stuff to my business Facebook page, it's actually done directly from Instagram. Instagram posts it over. So that's how little I even do that. And it's because I find that you're going through and you're going, okay, Joe's talking about how much he loves his girlfriend, and well, for a fact that that's not true. He actually can't stand the sight of her. Sally's sitting there complaining about how much she hates her family and how they do this to her and how they do that to her, and then you've got the people who are just sharing the most ridiculous things, and it's just my mum is terrible for sharing kids getting kidnapped, kids getting murdered, and dogs getting brutally attacked and all of those. Like, she'll share them because they make her feel sad, and she feels like, oh, this says you have to share it. And you're like, it's just a constant stream of sadness and horribleness, you know. And I actually don't find Facebook fun. I want to go back. I don't know if you remember this, but the days of Bebo. Bebo was so easy. It was just simple. It was just, I remember MySpace even before, yeah.
I was a musician anyway, so I had my music on MySpace. I mean, I didn't know or want to know any of my MySpace friends, pretty much. You know, anything that I posted pretty much never got saw. If you know what, like, if you know, like, unless somebody made the concerted effort to go into my MySpace and read my blog or see my post, you know, for the most part, it got drowned out unless somebody actually went in. MySpace, I loved MySpace.
Yeah, it was such a different time. It was simpler. Back then it was much simpler. I think Facebook has just become a whole world of negativity. You know, I just do not enjoy that at all, and I think it's sad that it became that, because although I don't think it ever had good intentions, what did they have it for in the first place? Remember the creators?
Face Smash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I think the idea of it was to just was to see what girls were single and what girls weren't single, which, by the way, I don't think is a bad idea for a website, because, I mean, it means that, you know what I mean, it's like you can check up on somebody from school and say, hey, is she single? Maybe I'll message her. Not the worst. You know what I mean? Like, there's a couple of other things that I want to, well, I know that we are not a political live stream, we don't want to get into it, but politics and people talking politics on Facebook, it wrecks me. And that's kind of the people feel the need to kind of show, you know, virtue signal as well on Facebook, and that's kind of another thing of Facebook, which is, so you get a constant barrage of whatever echo chamber somebody belongs to. If people just post sadness or post things that they want to show their opposition to or their support of, and often it has led to tribalism, though. Not in Northern Ireland per se, but like across the world, it has led to divisiveness. Have you ever watched the CGP Grey video? This video will make you angry. No. Well, that's basically what that video discussed. This video will make you angry. It sort of says that the YouTube algorithms are designed to kind of to show you kind of the stuff that is most likely to kind of make you angry, is most likely to kind of incense you, or so like the way that contemporary news is, or Facebook is, or whatever is that you know, cuddling little kittens or whatever will get a certain amount of views, and that's great. But angry posts, they will get the people at each other's throats. And very often what he said in this video was that it's very often like tribes arguing within themselves, but like the kind of more extreme element of a certain tribe versus the kind of more moderate element of the tribe arguing with themselves, which gets the most views. It's not like one tribe arguing with another tribe. It's people within the same tribe arguing with each other about pedantics over, you know, how much they love kittens. Is essentially, it was what was the example he gave. So it isn't sort of, you know, cats versus dogs arguing with each other about which is better, cats or dogs. It's sort of, it's the cat camp arguing with other cat lovers about how much they love cats, and accusing the other cat lovers of not loving cats enough, essentially. And that's the way YouTube algorithms or Facebook algorithms work, is that they're meant to make you angry. So, and you see it on Facebook, is that very, very often angry posts get more likes or more, you know, little sad faces or whatever. But as the YouTube algorithm kind of pushes down the kind of good news. And the good news of nowadays has been completely swept under the rug because there is a lot of good news nowadays.
Yeah.
There are less people living in poverty than there have ever lived in absolute poverty. There are less incidences of international terrorism than have ever been. There are more liberal democracies than there's ever been in the history of time. There's less war than there's ever been in the history of time. Average GDP is the highest it's ever been. Well, probably before Corona, but broadly speaking, so there's so much good news that the news could be reporting on, but
Yeah.
instead we're kind of arguing over minutiae for the most part.
Yeah, it's interesting whenever you do think about it like that. And as you're saying, yeah, we're all sort of arguing in amongst ourselves rather than focusing on where the positivity actually is. I'm just actually about to, just out of curiosity, have a wee flick through the main page on my Facebook, although the first post is Lynn sharing our video. Thank you very much, Lynn.
Thank you very much, Lynn.
So let's see. There's someone's passed away. There's 1, 2, 3 posts in a row from salon groups, all people complaining about what other people are doing that they shouldn't be doing. Somebody sharing a glass of wine, I suppose that's not too bad.
That's a new phenomenon with Instagram, people sharing food. I don't remember the before time of people taking pictures of food, but it seems to be pretty popular on Instagram. It's not something I object to, but it's definitely a new thing, which has happened over the last 5 years.
Facebook has had that for quite a long time. People would have shared pictures of their food. I remember there was a guy I used to work with, and it's going back 10 years, and he would have always posted what he had for dinner. And I mean always, every single night. He posted a picture of his plate, whatever he was drinking, the can, the glass, everything was all sitting immaculate, and he took a before picture before he ate, no matter what it was, every single night. I don't follow him anymore, so I couldn't tell you whether he actually still does, but that's going back on Facebook, even 10 years ago. But I find that kind of bizarre. I shared something recently, a food related thing, but it was actually promoting a brand. But I can't understand. It's something I never can get my head around. People just randomly showing what they have for dinner. My brother-in-law does it all the time. He'll post a picture of his dinner.
There's a few reasons why it does make sense. If you're on a particular diet plan, maybe,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what you're known for, being on that diet plan. If you're out at a restaurant and the restaurant is particularly good,
Yeah.
and you're recommending the restaurant, I can see why that would be. Or if you're like a personal trainer and there's like a something that you want to recommend, I mean, yeah, I can see, yeah, there's definitely reasons to do it, and there's definitely reasons. It's definitely not the toxic. It's not the worst thing social media has to offer.
No.
Is food. Actually, it's probably the best. The question here that I've written down is that do people get closer because of Facebook, social media, or do people become more distant because of social media? Because I feel as if 10 years ago, whenever Facebook first came around, I could get in touch with all the people I went to school with, and it's like, hey, there's all these people I went to school with. And now, I just, their posts I skim through as they bitch about Man U, or they bitch about politics, or they bitch about, and it's just negativity, and it's like, oh, he belongs to that tribe, and he wants to whatever, or she wants to whatever. Do people become closer because of social media? Probably not.
No. No, my opinion would be social media actually makes people less close and less social. I find that most of the people that you add as a friend, you might spend a couple of weeks where you chat with them a wee bit here and there, but then you get to the stage where you're like, okay, well, they weren't in my life before they were my friend. I wasn't missing something there, so I'm done getting to know what they're up to. And a lot of the time people, you know, especially people that you went to school with, it's curiosity. They're like, what are they up to now? Are they married? Do they have kids? What do they work as? What do they do with their time? And once you've kind of found that out, you're like, all right.
I don't need to stream. The thing is that I think what you liked about Bebo and what I liked about MySpace is that I don't need to stream. I just need to check in every now and then,
Yeah.
you know, on people that I'm interested in. But social media insists on giving us the stream of, and it's more often than not a negative stream, or it's a political stream. Maybe I'm just the bad. All my friends tend to be political, but I deleted my Facebook a while ago because of Brexit. Everyone was bitching because of Brexit, and I had to do basically a phone fast or a Facebook fast, get it out of my get away from it from a while because it was too negative. I have set up. I've now got 2 Facebooks, as it turns out, because the first one didn't delete. But yeah, it was too negative, and I couldn't. It was affecting me, the amount of negativity on my wall at that time. Yeah, sorry.
You're having issues? Oh.
I don't know what's going on with that light. Yes. So that's why I have, I think, about 112 friends on Facebook at the minute. I think I did try and add everyone again, but the truth is that most of the people on my Facebook is sort of, I would certainly like to check in every now and then, but if you saw them in the street, or like, would I message them to go for a coffee? Would I message them to go for a pint? If I was feeling depressed or alone, would I text them? And probably 80 or 90% of the people on my Facebook wall, I wouldn't. No. I don't know them well enough to say, let's meet for a drink. I know what they think about Brexit, but I don't know them well enough to, you know. And that's a weird kind of friendship that we are encouraging.
It is. I would totally agree with you. And again, as I say, you know, social media kind of makes us less social because we have these friends who, they're not friends. You know, they aren't even acquaintances really. They're just somebody that you go, oh, look, such and such is up to this, I'll give that post a wee like. And you do have people in your life, and as you say, it is maybe only 10-15% of your friends. I don't even know how many I have anymore. I know about 5 years ago, I went through and deleted so many people because I had over 1,000 friends on Facebook. I don't even believe I know 100 people that I would actually want to speak to if I passed them in the street. Never mind 1,000, you know. But I do believe that it's one of those things that there is so many people that I have people who are on my Facebook. I will be honest, I have a friend on my Facebook who actually lives in my street and has lived in my street now. I don't even know, I'm going to say 5 years, right? We went to primary school together. So I knew her in person. It's not just that we're friends on Facebook because she lives in the street, but she moved into the street. And I hadn't spoken to her in quite a long, long time, maybe 15 years. Never once called her door. And it's because I've nothing in common with her. Yes, she is a Facebook friend, but she's not a friend. You know, she's not somebody that I would call on. She's not somebody that we have anything in common with. But yes, if something came up on her on her Facebook, something was going on, I would comment and say I'm thinking of you, or give it a wee like if it's something positive. But I'm not going to call on her if I need somebody or if I fancy going for coffee. You know, and there's so many people on our friends.
I think it's about anybody anywhere being close, is that people need to spend time together, preferably in person, but even us being close, even like this isn't bad, because people change by the day, by the minute, by the hour. You know, people become different people as they get different jobs, as they meet different people. Mm-hmm. Everybody is strangely nostalgic for the people that they knew between the ages of about 13 and 18. And I mean, for us, that's 20 years ago, you know, and yeah, you know what I mean? So but for some reason, I'm strangely nostalgic for the people I went to school with, even though I wouldn't know how to have a conversation with them nowadays because they have had so many other experiences since knowing me that I mean, I've become a different person, they've become a different person. You know, they've gotten married, great. They've had whatever experiences. But it takes a while. In order to have a close friendship, it takes, you know, most people can't just slip back into whatever relationship. And if the relationship you had at the time, and if the friendship wasn't that close, even when it was close, then, you know, what are you doing? If you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And kind of coincidentally enough, just saying 20 years ago, I found my diary today from the year 2000 when between me turning, sort of being 15 and then turning 16. And it was quite interesting seeing things that I had written down there and what was going on. And it was quite a productive year for me, let's just say. But the amount of different people that I talked about in this that aren't part of my life now. I have some of my closest friends are still in my life, which is brilliant. But some of the other people I talked about in my daily, I was going to say posts. So used to social media, I was going to say posts. What is the word I'm trying to say? Inserts?
Logs.
Logs. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, computer brain is just totally broken that night. But anyway, my point was, just thinking of the social media, it's interesting. Whenever I was looking at it, I was thinking, I wonder out of all of this, the things that I'm talking about, the things that I'm ranting about, the things that I'm excited about, what of these would I have been posting on my social media if that existed back then? You know, what of these things that I was complaining about would I have shared? Would I have shared these things? The negative and the positive, would I have overshared? What would my teenage brain have thought? But it is interesting how many of those people, whenever I was reading it, just you saying about the nostalgia, me thinking, oh, do you remember that person? Do you remember that person? And then thinking, I wonder what they're up to right now. But I'm not reaching out to any of them because the thought of actually doing that and figuring out, well, actually, they're completely different people and have nothing in common, and what the heck was I thinking? Kind of puts you off. But it is interesting how different my teenage years, because my niece is basically the age I was during that diary. And I'm looking at her now going, oh my goodness, don't do that. Don't post that. Don't share that. And I'm looking at what I'm writing down going, I probably actually would have been pretty much the same.
There is a naivety with youth which is dangerous with social media. You know, obviously everybody's hormonal in their teens, and everybody's, I don't want to say stupid, and I don't want to say, but kind of a little, naive is basically the right word.
Yeah.
And there are things that you would think and believe and do and say and whatever when you're 14 years old that you don't want to be around 20 years later, just because maybe you said it when you were hormonal, maybe you said it when you were in a bad mood, maybe you said it because you didn't really understand the ways of the world. You know, children, well, not children, teenagers, let's say, on social media, it's a dangerous time for them.
Yeah.
And they're, like, especially girls, more so girls than guys, I think. But maybe it is true for guys as well, I don't know. But there's a lot of things that young girls would say, think, do, believe in their teens that they probably wouldn't after, you know, after a few years just being around and kind of maturing and kind of growing up. And, you know, young girls, you know, 18, 19, a lot of them are very pretty and they kind of get a big Instagram following and they have huge amounts of influence. You know, those young, vulnerable people who can say things that 3 years later, 5 years later, 10 years later, after a bit of perspective, So there are young Instagram models, you know, mostly women, that are in a very vulnerable position with social media.
Yeah. Maybe that's the thing, looking back at that diary, maybe more teenagers should go back to the private diary and posting what they're thinking. Again, I'm saying posting, writing what they're thinking down in that private diary before they put it online for everyone to see. I think even that is the beauty of you and I coming from a generation before social media. You know, we did write things down more rather than putting them on social media. We did keep things more personal that should stay personal, whereas now, because it is instant, you post it before you think about it, and once it's out there forever. Even if you delete it, it's already made that print, it's already made that mark, someone has seen it, and it's never totally gone. But I think that you are right in what you're saying. You know, whenever you are a teenager, right up to sort of late teens into early 20s, you are that wee bit more naive than you are whenever you are a wee bit older. And maybe social media we could step away from that a bit and put our thoughts back into the private areas rather than posting it all before you think about it.
Definitely. I remember when I was a kid, I would certainly have shared my private and intimate thoughts. I would have had 2 or 3 best friends back then. And I mean, certainly I would have shared my private thoughts with that inner circle of 2 or 3 people. Yeah. Or, if I was in a bad mood, maybe I would have, shouted at those 2 or 3 people. Or if there's really only 2 or 3 people that need to know your inner thoughts when you're a teenager. And arguably up until you're, at least 25. Offline catharsis is much better than kind of online catharsis. And that there is a pressure for online catharsis nowadays is putting a lot of pressure on kids, and there's kind of a new form of sort of, what you were saying earlier on, basically about kind of not feeling as gratified because the popular girl or the popular guy is getting a lot more Facebook likes than you are. Yeah. And yeah.
Yeah. Even just saying that, I would watch my niece take pictures. I'd see her sitting there and she's posing like this here, and the duck face that the teenagers do, because apparently that's attractive. I'm just too old to understand that, but I watch her once she's posted that, and within an hour, if she hasn't had more than 100 likes, she will take that picture down, because such and such's picture got more likes than that, and it went up at the same time. And even that in itself, you and I both know when we post pictures, we generally don't get 100 likes on a picture. I honestly think I could count on one hand how many times I've had over 100 likes on a picture. But teenage girls will always get so many likes. And yes, part of that is because they have so many other teenage followers that are on that as well. But it is that gratification where they're like, oh yes, I'm getting these likes and I'm getting this. But at the same time, if you don't, you start questioning yourself, and then you take that picture down, and there's nothing wrong with it. But maybe next time you'll post a wee bit more risque because you think, oh, well, maybe I need to be a wee bit more sexy. And I've seen that with so many teenage girls, which is really sad.
I want to sort of turn the conversation to teenage boys. Kind of feeling inadequate because there's a bit of an epidemic in male depression, which may or may not be due to social media. Basically what you're saying about, women get that kind of endorphin hit from feeling gratified because they get so many likes. Teenage boys basically don't. Teenage boys right from the get-go are kind of up against, men. Basically, they're up against, all men can see a young 18-year-old, 19-year-old's, a young, attractive girl's pretty pictures, and she is told on Instagram right from the get-go that she's very, very pretty, and, you know, young boys, on the other hand, do not. And, I mean, just to put this in some sort of context, 80% of people who kill themselves are male. So social media, if men are feeling lonely, they can't turn to social media for gratification, although women can. And this is kind of an underspoken about thing, if you ask me, that in this era of male suicide, I think that the dangers of women, we've discussed the dangers for women, and there's no doubt about it, there are dangers for women. Mm-hmm. But the dangers for men are a bit more invisible, a bit more and they're a bit more unspoken about, because everybody needs a sense of gratification, especially when you can see that all your female friends or that your crush is getting all this gratification on Instagram, and she's got this higher sense of self-esteem, and you're young, you're insecure, you want her to notice you, and you're awkward, whatever. There is an epidemic of male suicide which is being made worse by social media. And what are your thoughts on that? I don't know what I'm asking you.
No, I don't know what you're asking me either. But yeah, I agree that male suicide is something. I'll be honest. I know 5 people who have killed themselves. None of them were female. None of them. In fact, the first person was coincidentally written about in that first, in that diary I was talking about earlier. That was the first person I knew. But yeah, I would agree that girls get more gratification. They get more out of social media than guys do. It's a very different world for guys on social media, and you have to compete a lot more as a guy than you do maybe as a girl, and that could be really detrimental to your mental health, definitely.
Yeah. There's obviously a lot of issues nowadays with men and mental health, and it's I feel as if it's not spoken about enough.
Yeah.
The difficulties that men are facing in this contemporary society. Our sort of zeitgeist just says, "Oh, men need to open up more," but I don't think that's the problem, and I don't think that people realise how much our zeitgeist, and I'm talking more about just social media. Women can post a picture on Instagram and get 1,000 likes. Great, that makes you feel so much better. I was feeling a wee bit sad there, but now I'm wearing a bra and a bikini. I'm wearing a bikini. I've taken a picture and I've got 1,000 likes. I'm gorgeous. I feel a lot better about myself.
Yeah.
Men, not so much. I use dating sites as well, and it's the same thing in dating sites. It's women get all the messages. Men, if you just want somebody to talk to, somebody just to shoot some time with, you go on to a dating site and you'll send out, 20 messages, 30 messages, 50 messages, and you maybe get one reply, and she's not the girl you particularly wanted to reply to you, but you just want somebody to talk to. You don't want to call up a counsellor. You just want somebody to talk to. But every girl online is getting 20 messages, 50 messages, 100 messages,
You have a lot to compete with. I definitely think there's a lot more guys on on dating sites and things like that than there are girls. So you have a lot more to compete with, and I actually think that could be a whole topic in itself, to be fair, even just the whole male depression side of things, because it's a lot different to women, and I'm not just being sexist in that, but there is that whole macho side of things where people think, oh, men can't feel like that. But I have been there watching people really suffer, and it's something that I definitely think there needs to be more awareness of, and there needs to be something done about that.
Alright, well, let's talk about that next week then, because that is a whole topic all on its own. Let's move on to YouTube being depressing as fuck, because it is. Very, very quickly you find yourself in a YouTube algorithm. Very, very quickly. For example, I liked the Star Wars movies. Back in 19 whatever it was. I liked the Star Wars movies. Now my whole entire YouTube algorithm is all people bitching about the contemporary Star Wars movies and how they're not as good as the originals. And it's like, as much as they're not as good as the originals, etc., etc., and as much as I do like watching those sorts of videos, I don't like watching them all the time. Um, so it's like our whole entire personalities are defined by an algorithm.
Yeah, and let's face it, as you said earlier, who we are from day to day varies. So what you may watch one day isn't necessarily what you're going to watch the next day. I mean, I know for me, for example, if I'm lying awake at night, I'm going to watch something. Let's see, this last wee while I've been watching, as we've talked about, the Try channel. My whole recommendations at the minute are just constantly the Try channel. That's all it is, over and over and over again. If I watch something else for a wee while, for example, before it was New Kids on the Block, so everything on my recommendation list was all to do with New Kids on the Block. You do get pigeonholed, so all your recommendations then become around this. So you have to be careful then what you're watching, because if you continue with that recommendation and just keep going into those different videos, then you will just constantly be in that. And depending on what they are, for yourself with the whole political thing, you can get sucked down that rabbit hole of just constantly focusing on political stuff, which isn't good for your mental health at all.
No, it's not. It is not. That's exactly what, like, I got sucked. I mean, I was doing a master's in politics there 2 years ago, and yes, I got sucked down that rabbit hole, and I'm trying my best to get out of it. And it, I mean, I still enjoy a little bit, like like a wee bit of salt on some carrots or whatever, I still like a little bit of politics with the rest of my life, but I think being a well-rounded person means having many interests. And YouTube doesn't seem to understand that. YouTube seems to think that just because you like one kind of thing, it means, like, just because I like steak, it means that I want steak all day, every day, constantly. And it's like, yes, I do like steak, you're right, but I also like, tuna or, chicken or whatever. Yeah, you know what I mean? But being a well-rounded character, YouTube doesn't think like that.
No.
YouTube thinks if you like steak, you're getting steak every meal, every day, and you are just the steak person, and you're getting,
You're going to clog your arteries with that steak. And it does just get ridiculous, because, I mean, sometimes it's okay if it's easy watching, but if you watch, I mean, I know for a few years ago, I found myself watching videos of people dying live on TV, or I can't think of anywhere else that you'd be live apart from here, but yeah, like people dying on TV and things like, like Tommy Cooper, was he called?
Oh yes, he was, yeah.
Things like
he
that.
Had a heart attack on
That's right, yeah. But yeah, things like that. I don't even know how it happened. It was one of those rabbit holes where 1 minute you're watching one video and the next minute you're watching people dying. And because I watched a couple of these videos for about 3 weeks, all I got in my recommendations was all of these really horrendous videos of people dying live on TV, and it took ages for me to actually get away from those recommendations and trying to actually watch other things, because I knew if I kept watching something else, eventually that would get away from my stream. But it does, it kind of pigeonholes you, and watching people die is not something that you want to watch on a regular basis.
Yeah. See, what I've done to try and get out of my bubble, rabbit hole, whatever, and I don't know if this is just a beautiful segue to our next topic, or if you want to go back to YouTube, is to try and watch Netflix instead. But the thing is, the kind of Netflix is depressive.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I actually think a lot in this world now is just depressing. You scroll through even Netflix shows and all of them are quite dark. I mean, I am struggling to find something that's fluff, that's easy watching on Netflix at the minute, because anything that is a bit of fluff, I've already watched because I've needed that before. And it can be quite hard to find something that's easier than just all the darkness, all those documentaries, all the dark things. Thomas and I just started watching something yesterday on Netflix called Hollywood. And it's back in
I'm aware of it,
post-war.
yeah.
It's post-war time. Jim Parsons is in it, and it is quite dark. There's an element of it that kind of tries to be a wee bit comedic, but it is quite a dark time, and the things that are going on, like there's prostitution in it, and Jim Parsons' character is supposed to be, we've only seen a wee bit of him, but he's supposed to be really brutal in it. So yeah, even that is quite dark as well. You know,
I heard an interesting theory on a YouTube video, which I can't remember the name of the YouTube video, but I'll post it in the in the comments tomorrow, or whatever. That the reason why a lot of our movies and a lot of our culture has changed over the last 10 or 15 years to be a lot darker is because of 9/11. And basically, after 9/11, we kind of started to feel more helpless and more. It was like essentially we had all collectively been kind of raped on 9/11 or whatever, and we as a society kind of started to kind of go towards more darker places or whatever. And that's why our media now has started to reflect a kind of a darker tone in our society after kind of the violation of 9/11 or whatever, that kind of, because we felt like we had been violated after that. Well, America had been violated. Well, I suppose the whole terms of industrialized world had been violated after 9/11. That now all of a sudden our pop culture has to be violating in some way in order to reflect the mood of whatever.
That's an interesting one. Yeah, definitely send the link over. Because that would be an interesting one to watch.
The other thing I wanted to mention, I had a couple of suggestions for upbeat stuff. I don't know if we do want to try and keep this as positive as it can. I've been watching Modern Family.
I love Modern Family. I'm so sad that it's about to end too. Community, I still have not watched.
Get round to that. Dan Harmon, Rick and Morty.
No, I've never watched that.
They're both Dan Harmon, and if you're a sci-fi nerd like I am, both brilliant. And Community goes on for 6 seasons. The hashtag is 6 seasons in a movie on that one, but it's only 6 seasons. Rick and Morty so far, there is a 4th season, but it's not on Netflix, I don't think yet. But yeah, those are light-hearted stuff that you can kind of. Some of the darker, well, there's always been an element of dark stuff on Netflix. Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. But I enjoy that. Like, that's a moderate amount of darkness, an entertaining amount of darkness. I think Game of Thrones or The Dark Knight has essentially lowered the bar of darkness that we kind of expect of our kind of TV shows and our kind of pop culture. Like, just because Game of Thrones and The Dark Knight were good doesn't mean that we want to be bashed over the head with it. Like, have you ever seen The Walking Dead?
Yes.
Yes. So I'll not ruin The Walking Dead, but yeah, that's the way it feels like with darkness nowadays. You know, it's like the season finale of season 6 of Walking Dead, where we're being hit over the head with it, and it's too much.
Yeah. I have to be honest. I stopped watching Walking Dead a few seasons ago, simply because each season just felt like, great, more zombies. It's more of the same. We killed bad people last time. Here's a new tribe to come along, and we have to fight this time while killing zombies. And yeah, I'm okay with sci-fi, but I have my limits.
Yeah, it was good for a while, but it did get tiresome after a while. I did watch the most recent season, and actually the most recent season wasn't bad.
Okay.
But you need to be in a place. The big example of depressing as fuck TV show obviously is Black Mirror.
Yeah.
But I mean, for 3 seasons, it was awesome, and as long as you watched it one episode at a time, I marathoned it. I watched like 3 seasons of it in a day, and I wanted to kill myself.
That would be a lot. I've never watched more than a couple of episodes at a time.
Yeah, but that's the way Black Mirror. I find myself, you know the way Netflix is. It goes on to the next episode. It's like, oh, I may as well watch the next one.
Yeah.
you know, 2 seasons in or whatever, like, I was hungover one Saturday or whatever, and it's like, oh my god, I found my new favourite thing. It was like 7 o'clock in the evening, and I was like, right, I just can't, I've lost the will to live now. Although a little bit of that in moderation is fine, but there's no doubt about it, like, sometimes you just, yeah. So there's some TV shows like The Big Bang Theory that were good for a while, and then, but now they've lost their mojo. How I Met Your Mother kind of was okay. Well, it was fine. Well, was entertaining.
It is like a lot of them. I think I had this conversation recently, and I think the only one that all of the seasons had really loads of good episodes in them is Friends. I think it's the only one. Yes, there's the filler episodes that you're like, oh, I can't be bothered rewatching that. I found Thomas and I are the type of people, if we really enjoy a TV program like The Big Bang Theory, The American Office, Modern Family, The Middle, things like that, we'll rewatch them, and we'll just binge watch them now, which is brilliant, having the ability to do that. I found with The Big Bang Theory, the last season, for the most part, the episodes were rubbish, and you got to the end of each episode and went, what did I just watch? Like, what happened? They're getting $1 million, $1 million. Well, less because they split it, but they were getting so much money for each episode, and nothing happened. It was only the last couple of episodes that a lot happened in. The first half of that last season was rubbish. The previous season wasn't that great. I think I would have preferred The Big Bang Theory to end when Penny and Leonard got married. As much as I love the fact that Amy and Sheldon got married, don't get me wrong. Even ending it when they get married, that just being the last episode, like how amazing would that last episode have been?
That was the focus of the show. That's when it was funny. It was all about the nerdy guy getting a gorgeous girl. That was the whole entire premise of the show. Nobody cares about Sheldon and Amy. I mean, they had a couple of funny moments, great, but, I mean, they didn't...
No.
Yeah.
It's Ross and Rachel. Once Ross got Rachel, we're like, right, it's done. See you later. It's a great place to end. Not keep it going. And that was, I don't know if you've ever seen The American Office.
I actually haven't. Is that worth watching?
Yes, I'll not do any spoilers. It actually is.
Okay, great.
I could act in it.
That'll be after American, American Family, which I'm enjoying at the minute. I'm
Modern
about 4 or 5
Family?
episodes into American Family, and it's really good. Yes, so that's good.
I love Modern Family. I think Modern Family is brilliant because it you've got bits and pieces of all different ways of life. You've got the older man with the young wife. You've got the different, the fact that she's Latina. You've got the gay couple who adopt a child, and I think it's really good to bring all that together. And believe me, if you're only 5 episodes in, there is so much to see. It is brilliant. We just binged watched it all right through, and we have Now TV so that we can watch, because we don't have Sky or anything. We've been watching the last episodes coming through it. It is properly about to end soon. Goldberg's is another one that's really good to watch if you've never seen it. Goldberg's is set in the 80s, and it's basically, I don't know if you know anything about it, but Goldberg's is actually Adam F. Goldberg is, like, he works in filming and stuff, but all of the episodes are based around things that, well, it started as things from his childhood. There'll be clips of him and his family and stuff, so it's all his family. Although he had 2 brothers, but in the show it's a brother and a sister, just to keep it well-rounded. But it's kind of cool because it's set in the 80s, which, I mean, being from that time, it's kind of nice to see back into, but it's fun. It's a really fun one. So if you're looking for something good to watch, look out for Goldberg's.
Yes. There was something I wanted to kind of talk about. Was kind of the need for TV shows that are lighthearted in order to de-stress, because what we talked about in our last our last live stream was de-stressing at the end of the day and having time to switch off the mind. And there is, I don't think that people who make TV shows realise that there is more of a need for that than there is for another Game of Thrones or another, people need sitcoms just to kind of not, and you need something that doesn't intellectually stimulate you as well. You need something that, and it's getting harder and harder to find it. And, in these days when technically everything is great, as I was saying before, people are earning more money, people have more disposable income, people, there's more diversity of labour than there's ever been, there's more skilled jobs than there's ever been, there's, these are great times, but people just need to switch off and not watch Game of Thrones every now and then. Like, not everything has to be Game of Thrones, as much as Game of Thrones was good, or at least the first 4 seasons were.
Never watched
it. You've never watched it?
No. Never watched one episode. I sat in a room while someone else watched it, but I was editing a YouTube video, so no, I've never had any interest in it.
Okay. Well, yeah, as you say, it is what it is. Like, it's you know what it is going into it.
Yeah.
But it is good. Like, the first 4 seasons are good. The first 6 seasons are arguably quite good. Maybe even the first 7.
Yeah. But I think you're right, though. People do need... Lynn is just saying she's watched them all. That is not surprising to anybody who has ever spoken to her or met her or knows anything about her. But yeah, I think we do need more fluff. I mean, I found myself... The Good Place is really good. I watched Jane the Virgin. It is the biggest cheese fest ever. But I loved it because it was such easy viewing. And it was something you could just sit after being at work all day when you're tired and just watch it and not really think about anything. I mean, Jane the Virgin is about a girl who goes to the office for a smear test and comes away having been accidentally artificially inseminated. I mean, how ridiculous can you get? But that is how that whole thing starts, and she ends up falling in love with the guy, and spoiler alert, just in case you might have wanted to watch that, but it is so easy to watch, but it was so good, and you do get sucked into the love stories of it. But we need more things like that because, yeah, as you say, we do live in a better time now, but at the same time, it's not better, but that's because of what we're doing. And again, that goes back to the social media stuff, and I think stepping away from that into something less serious. We can watch all the documentaries, we can watch all the Game of Thrones and all those dark things, but you do need something softer. You do need something to just chill. I mean, I went out and got a load of books from the charity shop recently, and I read a couple that were quite heavy going, and then I went to read Bird Box, and I found myself 10 pages in going, I can't do this. I've just read 2 really hard books. I can't do another thing that's really dark. And I think that's the problem. We do put so much darkness into our life that we need fluff. We need easygoing things. We need... And I think that's why I love The Office as well, because it's silly. You've got the love stories, you've got serious things happen, but it is silly. There's a lot of laughs in it. And you can watch it and rewatch it, and it's just nice and lighthearted. It would be nice if we seen more things like that coming out on Netflix and Prime and all those other streaming platforms.
Do you think that things were better in the 90s or in the 80s? I mean, I'm thinking things like Only Fools and Horses, Faulty Cars, Friends, as you say yourself. Even Buffy the Vampire Slayer didn't take itself too seriously. Seinfeld didn't take itself too seriously. Do you think that things were better then, or do you think that I'm nostalgic?
It's hard to say whether you're nostalgic, because me agreeing with you could also just be nostalgia from me as well. It's a funny one because I laugh at Thomas because he was born in 1971, so he properly grew up in the 80s, whereas by the time 90 came around I was only 6. So I was growing up more in the 90s than the 80s, but I listened to him talk so nostalgic about the 80s and think, you're just being daft. But in reality, yeah, 80s and 90s were easier times. It was. And I think even the fact that there was less options for us was better as well, because I don't know about you, but whenever, obviously we don't have Sky anymore, but even with the likes of Netflix, you're flicking through constantly going, yeah, there's nothing to watch, there's nothing I want to watch. Whereas whenever it was less, I think the quality, maybe not even the quality, but the enjoyment of things was different. I don't know, I definitely find that things were better. As you say, Seinfeld, Friends, Cheers, you know, all of those things. I was talking about Mork and Mindy recently. I'd forgotten that even existed.
Yes, I watched that when I was a kid.
Mork and Mindy was brilliant, but it was ridiculous.
Yeah. There's a lot of those things that we watched when we were kids that just don't make any sense now. Like, even if you try and watch them now, it just, like, the appeal of them just isn't there. Sabrina the Teenage Witch was something I watched as a kid.
Loved Sabrina.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if I even tried to watch that now, I'd be like, this is terrible on every level. But it made me happy when I was a teenager. So
so leave it there. Don't ruin
what it was, and didn't apologise for it.
Yeah. That's it though. You know, you knew what you were watching. You knew it wasn't really scientific. There's Lynn is just saying Clarissa Explains It All and Saved by the Bell. Yeah, I mean, they were just so much fun to watch. I mean, I remember watching loads of different things like Heartbreak High, and I mean, I remember the original days of Hollyoaks before it got really dark and serious. I loved Hollyoaks. Now whenever I put it on, well, I mean, I haven't for years now, but the last time I tried to watch it, I was like, when did this get so dark? It didn't be like that at the start. And again, it's what you're saying, you know, everything has that darker element to it. And even watching soaps and things, I couldn't watch normal soaps now. EastEnders, Coronation Street, because it is all very depressing. You know, they don't really focus on the good that's going on. It's all the negativity and I think
there used to be a lot of chick flicks that came out. Like, it used to be that every other movie was a chick flick, basically, and that was... I don't remember the last chick flick that was in the cinema.
Lynn might remember.
Like, obviously, that was escapist entertainment. You would take your girlfriend to see a chick flick, and all women love chick flicks, and all men pretended we hated them. And, you know what I mean? And but that was what you did on date night, was you went to see a non-offensive chick flick that wasn't going to offend anybody. You know, and then you went out for dinner or whatever, you know, but that used to be date night. Nowadays, if it's not like a film making an important political statement, it's a film that's depressing as fuck, you know?
Yeah, pretty much. The Notebook can't be the last chick flick to come out, Lynn. Definitely, something else has to have come out since La La Land. It's a chick flick.
It was crap though. Did you watch it? It was crap. I turned it off at exactly the same place when I tried to watch it twice because everyone was raving about it. And in exactly the same place, it's like, right, I'm going to give this 45 minutes or whatever. And it's like, nope, can't do it. And obviously I have a certain amount of patience for bad movies. And it was on exactly the same place where I just flipped and said, no, like nothing's happened in this movie up until this point. It was like 45 minutes in or 50 minutes in or something.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. It doesn't, I can't think of the last chick flick to come out. And Lynn has just said technically it's a musical, La La Land, not a chick flick. But, I mean, it had the elements of chick flick in it.
You know, it's nice to be able to take your girlfriend to something that you're not going to be arguing about afterwards. You know, or just, you know, or that has you both in a bad mood afterwards, or that, you know, just like a happily ever after formulaic chick flick. But unfortunately, that market just became a bit saturated, and I think the superhero market has become a bit saturated now. So we are now where the chick flicks were 10 years ago. So maybe what we need now is a few more chick flicks to Um, and I hope so, because there's a whole lot of stuff happening in Hollywood with, you know, women wanting more roles, and how the superhero genre doesn't lend itself to femininity. So, you know, I kind of hope we do get a resurrection of chick flicks, or like good chick flicks, well written chick flicks, you know, as well, you know. And there was a few good kind of, what am I thinking about? Sorry, I was thinking about, there's a few kind of indie movies that are kind of coming out, like Little Miss Sunshine, and but even that was 10 years ago.
I know. I honestly can't think of a lot. I would go with a friend of mine, and we would see the secret viewings in, what do you call it, the Omniplex? Yeah, the Omniplex. And it's interesting sometimes going to see something that you're not choosing beforehand, because I got to see, oh goodness, my brain has gone to sleep here, 3 Billboards Over Missouri. It was so good right up until the end, and at the end I was just like, where's the rest of the movie? Why did you just end there? Why did that stop? Why is there not more? I saw, what do you call that tennis player? Billie Jean?
That's the new Michael Jackson song, isn't it?
It is. It's not, Lynn, it's not, clearly not what you call her. Anyway, there was a movie about a tennis player. My brain has gone to sleep.
Agassi or somebody, or Sampras?
No, this is... Wait a second, that's going to annoy me if I don't. She's a female and became really famous a long time ago. She was like the first to go to Wimbledon or something like that.
Was that like Gender Wars or something? Is that what that movie is? Or there was like a male tennis player versus a female tennis player. There was a movie about that recently.
Yeah.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. Battle of the Sexes.
Battle of the Sexes.
Called.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
So
Netflix, film, TV shows, and the last thing. Well, actually, we're what, an hour and 12 minutes in. The last thing just is the news is depressing as fuck. And it is. Basically, I know that we don't want to get political at all, and I don't want to get political at all, but it basically boils down to Brexit, Trump, and now COVID-19, which is kind of giving them something legitimate to, The news basically tells us all the bad things and doesn't tell us all the good things, basically, and that's what that boils down to.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I have to be honest, I am not massive into watching the news, just because I do find it so depressing, and it's difficult in a world that's already depressing enough, then sitting down and focusing on that. And I find at the minute I am not really watching, like, I know 5 o'clock every day we have our coronavirus update from Boris Johnson, but I can't bring myself to watch them, because it's the same thing over again. This amount of people have died, and it's hard enough to...
Somebody will tell me whenever basically the restrictions have been lifted. That's, you don't need to watch it until the restrictions are lifted. Because you know how bad it is. I know how bad it is. You know, I don't need to tune into the news to find out how bad it is, because, so somebody will post it on Facebook whenever the restrictions have been lifted, and that's basically all I need to know.
100% with you.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Does it matter how many people died yesterday or the day before? Or, I know that people died yesterday and the day before. I'm sure they did. And I'm sure that it's a terrible number, etc. But it's not something that anybody really needs to know.
No. I think it's one of those things that, yes, at the end of all this, if we have a number, we can collectively mourn everybody that's passed away from this and join together in that. But I think every single day listening to that number going up and going up and going up and focusing, well, today was a wee bit less than yesterday's amount, and this day's worse, and I just think, let's wait until the end and focus on this here. Let the people who need to know, like the scientists, the doctors and the politicians and all of those that need to know how many people, because they need to know what they're working with and all of that. We don't need to know. We don't need to focus on that day to day. We need to focus on ourselves. We need to focus on getting through each day and finding a way to cope in that. If we focus on all of the negativity of this here, we're never going to make it through. You know, we need to do, and that's the thing with the news itself. It's, you don't talk about what's good. It is all the bad stuff, no matter what sort of, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's riots, whether it's, let's face it, we're from Northern Ireland, we have lived through the news trailing out every single bad thing that goes on in our country. And it's not good for your mental health to continually watch that. Like, I've never been one to focus on it because it just brings me down as soon as I start watching it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. My mum and dad listen to the news all day, every day, and I can't. I just can't. Because, I mean, as you say, the way that the news is, it tells you either the bad stuff or their opinion on the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's a time and a place for somebody's opinion, and everybody's got entitled to their opinion, etc. But yeah, the way that the news is designed is that good news very rarely makes the news. You know, is it, it's the bad news that makes the news. It's not, 100,000 people were lifted out of poverty today. It's not, 1 million people did not die of polio today. It's not, 100,000 people were cured from HIV today. It's, that can't make the headlines. It's not, this company is researching a cure for global warming, which is happening. It's not, so it means that people get very hysterical about political causes. Mm-hmm. Because the news doesn't really report on everything that's being done to overcome the causes. It reports the problem, and it doesn't report the solution. Enough is something that I don't like about the news. And the solutions, what is being done, isn't exciting, but the problem is exciting.
Yeah.
So it means that people think that they're living in a world full of problems, but basically the world is getting better, and the news never reports that.
No, and it's like what you were saying earlier about Facebook and the negative posts, the things that make you angry always get more views and more likes and more interaction, more engagement. That's just what the news is like. It shares the bad stuff because people get sucked in more by that, and people think, oh, this is awful, and it gets you riled up. Whereas telling them, oh, we've done this, we've done that, it's great, this is going really well, people are like, all right. It doesn't rile you up the same.
Yeah, so good news doesn't make headlines, and the thing is, there is so much good news. Don't have nightmares, do you sleep well? Do you remember Jill Dando?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a kind of somber note to kind of end things on, but yeah. But, I remember that Crime Watch, and at the end of Crime Watch, every week it was, don't have nightmares, do sleep well. But, I feel like the news should kind of report that at the end of every kind of broadcast as well, is kind of, the world is getting better. Crimes pretty much throughout the UK are reasonably rare. The crime rate's gone down massively over the last 30, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
Your chances of being murdered today are much lower than they were in the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we're very nostalgic for pop culture back in the 1980s, but the truth is about the 1980s is that there was a lot of crime back then.
Yeah.
There was a lot of murder, a lot of rape, a lot of... there was obviously the Cold War, which was a real thing. There was a lot more war, a lot more tyranny, a lot more of bad stuff than there is today, and yet we're here now. There are definitely bad things about today, i.e. social media, but the world is getting better, for better and worse,
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'm just realising, one thing we didn't really talk about social media was the bullying aspect of it.
That's worth talking about. I
think it's one of the worst parts of it. I don't know whether you want to push it for another conversation, but if you talk social media and how bad it is, bullying is one of the worst parts, and it causes most of the depression with it.
Yeah, I don't really know what else I have to add to it except for that. Unless you have anything more you want to add except for that. We're on an hour and 20 minutes here.
No, I don't know. I mean, it's just something that, I mean, Lynn had commented there about the whole thing with Caroline Flack and how much bullying goes on with that. You know, it's something that actually really interests me, is how we spent a whole month of people doing the whole hashtag be kind thing, and then once the whole coronavirus thing started, all of a sudden it's every man for himself and everybody got hateful again. And it's funny how quickly we can forget about being kind to others. And I think that is, maybe this is the note to end this on, is when you're on social media, be kind. Remember that the person that you're talking to on the other side of that computer is going through their own things, and when you're typing to somebody, what you're typing doesn't necessarily come across to them as you mean it yourself, because typing and talking are two very, very different things. There is no tone, so when you type something, if you're typing something sarcastic, it doesn't necessarily come across as sarcastic when you type it. You know, so be careful. Remember, at the end of the day, just because you're having a bad day doesn't mean to say you need to take it out on somebody on social media. Maybe step away from social media if you're having a bad day, because you might say something to somebody that you wouldn't necessarily say on a different day. But I think maybe the good place to end this is saying, be kind, be nice to each other. You know, don't be a keyboard warrior. Sometimes we are braver on a keyboard than we would be if we were standing in front of somebody. That's not necessarily a good thing.
Yes, I think that is a good note to end it on. And I think after, well, an hour and 20 minutes, I think we've actually done quite well. I mean, I was expecting this conversation to go on for at least 2 hours. But yeah, no, I think we've kind of touched on every topic there. I don't know if we'll come back to any of these topics. I'm sure we will as this or podcast or live stream or whatever it is that this actually is moves forward. But no, I think we've done well, and I think that's pretty much where we wrap it up tonight.
Alrighty, well, good chatting, and thank you for watching, whoever has, apart from the obvious Lynn, as always. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.